podcast of Quiérete. I'm your host, Ana. Thank you for being here again today. That's if you're tuning back for a second or a third time. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent with these episodes. So my goal is really to publish at least once a week, but sometimes life happens and it's hard for that to happen. But if you're tuning in for the first time, I want to say thank you to you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see today, we have a very special guest. It's one of my really good friends who drove about, I think you said an hour and 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty long drive. So thank you so much. I appreciate that, because I think that's such a good way to show support too. And then for you guys to get to hear her story as well and get to hear from her, because I've always found her so interesting. And so, without further ado, I'll let her introduce herself so you guys can know who she is. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
So my name is Gloria, and I've known Miss Anna for a few years now. We have worked together before, and it's been really fun, and I'm excited to be here and to support your podcast.
Thank you, Gloria. So Gloria and I met in 2019, right?
Yes.
So that's
the end of 2019.
The end of 2019. Yeah. So we were working together in county behavioral health, and so I just transitioned out of county behavioral health. But I think, like I said in a previous episode, is that once you leave a job, I think you have more of an opportunity to create friendships with people, because it's not just us with them in a professional setting. Now it's like we can hang out after work, and we can hang out in a more calmer setting. So I'm really grateful for that. And like I said, she drove a whole hour away from where I live. So thank you again for being here, Gloria. All right, so for today's episode, we are going to continue the conversation on mental health, and we are also going to talk about seeking therapy for the first time. And so I thought that'd be a really interesting topic to talk about, and I know Gloria has a lot of information that she can talk to us about today too. So just to get started, I want to ask you, Gloria, first is how do you define mental health, and what role does mental health play in your life?
Okay. Well, for the first question, how do I define mental health? For me, it's nothing fancy. It's literally just taking care of your emotional well-being. For me, I like to think of it more as just taking care of, your mind, your body, and your soul, really, because, mentally, if you're not feeling well, you're not going to perform well in anything, and, whatever you put into your body is also going to play a huge factor into that. And so, for me personally, I've been trying to pay attention, I guess, to all the things I consume, whether it be food or, whether I'm on social media or watching certain things, or even the environments that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because I think that plays a huge role. So, yeah, that's what I would say for mental health. And the second one was the role.
So what role does mental health play in your life personally? Or professionally as well?
Let's talk about professionally first. Okay, so it's a huge role professionally, just because of the work that I do, the work that we used to do together.
Yes.
So I'm a pre-licensed children's therapist, and I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years. I think I'm going on 5 years.
Yeah.
But just working with teenagers and helping them kind of learn how to just cope with whatever stressors they have going on, or whatever disorders that they might be experiencing, or symptoms that they're experiencing, and then eventually just teaching them that a lot of people experience this. So
Mm-hmm.
I think prior to that, I was working with adults who have developmental disabilities, actually co-occurring disorders, because a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
also use substances, and then they had mental health disorders. They were also judicially involved, so they were in and out of the courts and in jail and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's mental health has played a huge role for me
Yeah.
professionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so with that said, Gloria, I know with the families that we worked with, right? And I say that because Gloria and I used to work at the same school as well, right, and the same city as well. So a lot of the population was very similar as far as backgrounds and race, ethnicity, and all that too. But for a lot of the families, it was very difficult for them to even seek mental health services in the first place, right? Because of the stigma that there is around mental health. I think it's gotten a little bit better, but still, it still exists, even more so in the area that we work. So along the topic of therapy, and I'm saying this right because Gloria and I have we talked to each other a lot about our therapy experiences, about seeking our own therapist as well, and initiating our healing journey. So I'm wondering for you, Gloria, can you tell me about the moment where you decided, like, I think maybe therapy might be beneficial in my life right now? How was that for you?
So I mean, that wasn't until adulthood, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think what I can say is during adolescence, I already knew that something was going on. For me as a teenager, I was just, I noticed that my anxiousness was kind of like, super intense.
Yeah.
And that had a lot to do with my upbringing, I would say. So yeah, I did know I was always a very quiet person, very reserved, but also I was kind of always just, I wouldn't say defensive, but maybe just aware of my surroundings and kind of waiting for something bad to happen. So I already knew as a teenager. And then I would say during grad school, I learned a lot about mental health. And then it was almost immediately after grad school to where I was like, ooh, I gotta start working on this. I gotta start working on myself. Actually, you know what? I graduated in 2018, and it was kind of like at the beginning of the pandemic. So I kind of had some downtime, and I was like, let me look for a therapist.
Yeah, okay. So that's when it started then. That's when you're like, I think it's time, maybe I should explore this option.
That's when that's when, I mean, I was already, oh my gosh, I don't remember how old I was.
Well, that was maybe like your mid-20s?
Yeah.
Yeah, around there?
I think so. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what, if I have some downtime, the easiest way to do this now is through telehealth because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so it was right in the beginning, and then that's when I started looking for one. Okay. And it worked out.
Yeah.
For a while.
So then you started your therapy journey in your mid-20s then?
I would say late
20s. Okay.
Maybe like 26, 27, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And then is it still the same therapist that you started off with, or is it a new therapist now?
No. So I had that therapist, and it was through Kaiser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Kaiser, I don't know. I think they've changed their systems lately, but before, if you weren't high risk, they would not keep you.
Oh.
Like, they wouldn't keep you. And you know what? I can understand that too, especially during the pandemic, because it's like, whoa, they probably had a lot of high risk people during that time that really needed the support.
Yeah.
And so because I wasn't super high risk, they didn't really want to keep me.
I see. Okay. Yeah. And I think you touched on a good topic too, because I've heard from like family members who have looked for a therapist, and then they stopped going to therapy after 2 weeks because they said that it just didn't feel like they didn't feel comfortable, right? So sometimes it's and I'm not trying to bash on therapists or anything like that, because you know, I come from mental health as well, but sometimes like we might not just be it might not be a good fit, right? We might not connect with that certain therapist. So how important for you was it to feel that connection with the therapist? Like, is that something important for you, or like what's important for you when you seek a therapist? What makes a difference for you?
For me, I can most of the time talk to anybody. I think it's mainly about if a person is willing to understand me better, I guess. I'm trying to think about, so I worked with 3.
Okay.
And all of them were very nice and whatnot, but I think the 3rd one got me. You know, I don't know what it was. I don't know whether if he had similar experience. But I just felt like I could tell him anything, and he understood, or at least he was knowledgeable about some of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That's good that you mentioned that. So for people that are watching too, right? Just because maybe like it doesn't work out the first time, like don't get discouraged. Like there's a lot more therapists out there. You know, it's okay to say, you know what, just not working out with you. Let me try a different therapist. But don't let that discourage you from like seeking therapy again, right? Because therapy is actually very helpful. So how do you feel like therapy has helped you this far? Like, what have you learned from therapy? What have you gotten out of therapy?
Let's see. Well, you know what? I lied. There's been 4.
You forgot. I forgot the last one.
I remembered when you were saying, as you were talking, there's been 4 because actually one was given to me during pregnancy.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Because, and it was also through Kaiser. And they, at that point, they were like, oh well, this is free now. We have somebody like dedicated to you know, pregnant women. And I was like, oh, I might as well give it a shot, you know. So I lied. Sorry. And now I'm forgetting your last question.
It's okay. You're good. So my question was, like, what have you gone out of therapy?
Oh, that's
what have you learned?
Well, my most recent one is teaching me that it's okay to be myself, I guess. Because a lot of what I've told him kind of focuses on, I guess it would be like a lot of the things that I'm ashamed of. And just more recently, we're trying to unpack more of childhood stuff. And he's trying to help me find like the connections, you know? So right now that's kind of what I'm learning more about myself. My like authentic self. Because before I think just I didn't feel comfortable showing that to anybody, really. And I think I felt so strongly about that starting off in this field. Like, nope, I can't show them, you know, who I am or whatever. I have to come across as this professional, as just, I don't know, not me. I don't know how to explain it. Really.
Yeah. I think you're doing a really great job explaining it. But therapy requires you to, you know, be very vulnerable, and that can be very scary sometimes too. And yeah, it's interesting because, you know, when we're working together, I think we kind of started seeing a therapist from the same, I was gonna say agency, but provider or
I don't know what they.
I don't know what you would call it, but it was the same network of therapists, and then we started sharing a lot about, you know, like our therapy sessions. So it was nice to be able to connect in that way too, and just like, what did you learn from therapy today? And like, oh, yesterday I cried so much, but it felt so good, and we still continue sharing that as well. So so yeah, thank you for sharing that. So along with seeking a therapist, right? Some people go to therapy because they've experienced something very traumatic, or sometimes it's because they're just going through something like really difficult or really stressful in their life. So have you encountered anything difficult in your life? And if so, like, how do you cope with challenges in life? What do you do to take care of yourself? And how do you manage when things don't go your way and something crazy happens in your life, right?
The encounters of difficult things in my life is a
Yeah.
lot of encounters.
Yeah.
And how I'm trying to deal with it now. Well, as I was saying about my therapist, is that we're trying to unpack all of that and actually trying to. We haven't got there yet, but I'm assuming that we might start talking about some of the things that I've suppressed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I told them was that I don't remember from like ages, I don't know, like 7 or 8, like from 7 or 8 years old, all the way until, I don't know, maybe I graduated high school. Like I legit just don't remember a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, oh, I think I suppressed a lot.
Yeah. It's like you blocked out that time in your life.
Yeah. And then, I mean, as of lately, what I've been trying to do is just really trying to stop and think about how I'm going to respond to a certain situation. Luckily, things haven't been super stressful lately. And so, yeah, I'm just hoping it continues going that way, but things happen, so
yeah.
It'll be a test.
Yeah. Yeah. You can test out what you've learned in therapy, right, and apply it as well. But I like that idea, instead of being so reactive, because I think we all can be very reactive sometimes. You're learning how to be more responsive to situations.
My therapist is going over progressive muscle relaxation lately, which is kind of helpful because for me, I need to let out some like energy when I'm anxious and whatnot, because my go-to is pacing.
Oh,
like I'll literally pace the whole room and stuff. So, or even when I'm angry, I'll pace.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
I was remembering us in the office and like how sometimes we would just come out of our office and like just go back and forth too, right? I'm thinking about it, but I think I would do that too. I would just get up and like walk to your office and then walk back, and I'm like, okay, I really need to start working. But yeah, do you do anything else to like take care of yourself?
As of lately, it's difficult just because of I have kids.
Yeah.
Because of the kids
too, kiddos.
So lately it's been kind of challenging. Everything is focused on them. I would say small things I'm doing, like I don't know, like trying to be grateful for everything that we have. Here's a weird thing. So I'm like the type of person that has like a lot of bad dreams and like restless nights and stuff like that. I've told you that.
Yeah.
But as of lately, I'm waking up and I'm like, thank God, thank God that's not my life.
Oh, yeah. It's like a relief, right? When you wake up in the morning. Yeah.
So even in the mornings, I'm like, oh, okay, now this is my life. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Besides that, I've been trying to rest a lot, like just paying attention to when I need to rest.
Good.
And then little things I'm trying to substitute, I guess, different things like I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of one right now. But yeah, we're trying to get out more too. Like when was it? Like I don't know if it was last weekend. We went out to the park and we just spent time in the park in the grass and just laid there for like 2 hours.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Even little things.
Yeah, that can make a difference, connecting to nature. The other day, one of my friends, I don't know if you saw that episode, but she talked about her going to the forest, like being out in nature. she's like, oh, even the word says it, right? For rest, forest. I was like, oh, I had no idea. She goes, it's for rest, right? It's for you to disconnect and just be able to ground yourself too. So that's nice that you guys were spending more time outdoors, getting your vitamin D.
Sounds nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Out in the wilderness. Do you ever go camping?
We do, but when's the last time? It's been at least a year. Ever since the baby. The baby's a year old. So we said we would when she was, even though she was so little, but we didn't because it was just the winter came. We had gotten sick and so I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up going pretty soon. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's nice. Sometimes things get in the way, right? And speaking of things getting in the way or barriers, going back to our, the topic of therapy, what do you think are some barriers to seeking therapy? What are some things that might get in the way? So I know you said that it wasn't until your adulthood that you started thinking or even exploring the option of seeing a therapist, even though stuff was coming up for you when you were younger. Like, what do you think got in the way, or why do you think it took that long for you to seek a therapist? What might get in the way for you or for people in general?
Maybe just not having knowledge that therapy kind of exists. Like, there's people you can talk to. I think that's one thing that was a barrier for me. The seed was planted when I was young, but even then, one thing that I find kind of like crazy these days is that I don't remember anybody reaching out to me when I was in high school. I don't remember anybody trying, like, oh, that student looks like they might be struggling, or this student is looks like she could talk to somebody, or anybody reaching out to me. So I think that, and just kind of the motto in our house was always to just kind of just deal with it. Don't worry about anything. It's gonna be fine, and just never talk about things. And so I think for a while I was like, oh, I could do this. Like, no big deal. I don't need to talk to anybody or anything like that. You sound like you're complaining.
Oh, yeah.
In my house, Just don't worry. We have enough. We have the basic needs and whatever. But yeah. And then once you try to look for you gotta make sure you have...
That's a whole different story.
Insurance and finding the right match and seeing if they'll even accept you, or if there's availability. When I was looking throughout town for a therapist, they have wait lists, and it's just, after a while you're not struggling as bad, and then you're like, oh, maybe I can wait longer, or I don't know. But so I think those are some of the barriers, I think.
Yeah, those things might come up too, and then I think that's when people start feeling discouraged and then just continue coping with however they've been coping, right? So for anybody who is kind of unsure if therapy's appropriate for them, what would you advise, or what piece of advice would you give someone who is either having a difficult time, like seeking support from other people because they're struggling, or someone who is thinking about therapy but they're not sure? Like, what are some things that you could tell them to encourage them to either ask for support from, I don't know, from someone, right? I think now they have like crisis text lines, like you can text someone and someone can respond to you. It doesn't have to be therapy necessarily. But yeah, what would you tell someone that's struggling and like they're still on the fence about seeking support?
I would say to go with your gut feeling. Because I think, well, when you think about it, whenever, or at least let me speak for myself, whenever I felt that there was something wrong, there was usually something wrong. Even if you try to push it away, So I would say to go with your gut feeling, and even if, like, how can I say this? There'd be times that I think I'm going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, am I crazy?
Yeah.
You know? So, hey, just go for it, and then let me go talk to somebody, and then we can confirm if I'm crazy or not.
Yeah.
No, but
what I've learned is like if you actually think you're crazy, it's like you're more than likely you're not, because a crazy person wouldn't even like
wouldn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't even be a thought that crossed their mind.
Yeah. Well, I think just talking to somebody who, like a professional, who's able to help you understand like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's nice. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I mean, if you're in pain physically, you're gonna go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling some type of way mentally, you should probably go.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Gloria, so much. You heard it there directly from someone who is working in the field directly with high school students, and who has worked with adults as well, and who is now on their journey of becoming licensed. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences as well. And again, really the purpose of this channel is to hear people's stories, and for people to be able to hear to your story and resonate and be able to connect as well, and then normalize the topic of mental health as well, right, in order to reduce the stigma. So there you have it, everybody. I want to say thank you again to Gloria for coming all the way over here just for this, right? We might hang out a little bit after too. Hopefully she'll stick around a little longer and go get something to eat. But yeah, that's it for today. It seems like a lot of you guys like the podcast interview style, because those are the ones that tend to get the most views. So if you like those, like, let me know please in the comments, and make sure to subscribe too. And yeah, we'll see you guys until next time. Bye.